Welcome to Season 4 of My Wife the Dietitian, a fun, evidence-based weekly podcast about nutrition and healthy living. On today's show, we take a question from a listener who wants to know if grains cause inflammation. Stay with us to find out all the details. Enjoying the show? You can help others find it and enjoy it too by giving us a 5-star rating or review. If you feel like reaching out to us with a question or comment, you can send us an email at mywifetherd@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit our website at mywifethedietitian.com, as well as our social media pages. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy the show. Welcome to My Wife the Dietitian. Hello, Sandra.
Hello, Rob.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Good.
What's up for today?
A question I got from a client that I actually hear all the time. Should I avoid all grains? I heard they cause inflammation.
Oh, absolutely. That's the rule, isn't it? That when something causes you problems, you just stop eating it altogether forever. That's what a lot of people think anyway.
I hear what you're saying, and it's confusing because there's a lot of information out there, and that's why I want to talk about it, because a lot of different diets, for instance, like the keto or paleo, is promoting to avoid all grains because they cause inflammation.
And do they?
Well, it depends on the person, and it depends on what type of grains we're talking about. But I think where the history comes in is the average American probably eats about 130 pounds of wheat per year.
Wow.
In the form of cakes, breads, cookies, crackers, cereals. And it's in the form of highly refined wheat products.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So the pendulum swings, right? So in the 90s, there was a low-fat diet trend. Mm-hmm. So a lot of food companies were developing formulations to reduce the fat.
Right.
And a lot of these foods were refined carbohydrates or refined wheat.
Oh, interesting.
Because wheat is very prevalent in our society in terms of the foods we're eating. It's cheap, it's relatively stable, and that allows for longer shelf life and storage.
Right.
For stability. And so the refined wheat is less prone to volatility in pricing and availability due to fluctuations in weather in terms of the crop.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
And it's used in combination with other ingredients like vegetable oils, like the corn and soy, to make an endless variety of packaged foods. If they just add coloring and flavoring and preservatives, you get many different products.
It's kind of like Play-Doh.
But
right?
The commercial processing discards the most nutritious part of the wheat. They discard the germ and the bran, and they just use the endosperm.
Which isn't the healthy part. Or they've gotten rid of the healthier part, you said.
Yeah, because if they kept those, then they're not as shelf stable because it's a fat, right? The germ is the fatty acid of the grain.
Mm-hmm. And that's what makes it a whole grain? It has all the parts?
Yes.
I see.
Yeah, exactly. And whole grains aren't necessarily wheat. They can include wheat.
Right, I see.
But there are other things too.
Right.
So there's a speculation that one of the big reasons for the rise in food intolerances is due to the overconsumption of eating all of these foods that are refined grains, because you're just eating a lot of refined wheat that has preservatives, colorings, flavorings, all of those.
I see. It's like a catch-all.
Yeah. And those refined grains could cause inflammation.
Okay. So that it's kind of half right. The information, the messaging we're getting about avoiding foods is sort of half correct.
Well,
or correct in some cases, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. It really depends on the person. But we know that the refined grains, if you have too much of those in your diet for years and years, that could affect inflammation. they do have higher glycemic index. So that means that if you ate a big pasta meal with just noodles, that is a refined grain that would potentially spike your blood sugar.
Okay.
So it has a high glycemic index.
Right.
And so what historically has happened is the plate ratio has been off.
Oh, I see. Too many carbs, too many grains.
And not enough
veggies and protein. Yeah.
And healthy fats.
Right.
To balance it out.
Right. Okay.
So that's part of the problem. Part of the problem also is we know that 25% of our overall calories come from snacks. And most people, what are their snacks?
Well, easy to grab things. Crackers, chips, cookies maybe for some people.
Refined carbohydrates.
Yeah, like especially if it's a drive-through kind of snack, you're going to get a muffin or a donut or one of those kind of baked items, which is always the refined grains, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, grains like bread and pasta and white rice, they are mostly carbohydrates that the body quickly converts to sugar to be used for energy in the body. So excess consumption is associated with higher levels of inflammatory markers. The C-reactive protein, I think we've discussed that before.
Yep.
Aside from the potential for inflammation, high refined carb intake prevents us from eating more micronutrient-rich and anti-inflammatory foods.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So there's not as much room left for eating the veggies and the salads, like the non-starchy vegetables and the healthy fats and the protein.
Exactly. Yeah.
So should I avoid all grains? I heard they cause inflammation. So let's talk about that. So it's interesting because whole grains are not new. Can I talk about a few grains that are whole?
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, you tell me, like,
I knew you were going to go there.
What do you think are a whole grain? Because I think we've done an episode with Kelly Springer, dietitian, episode 84, whole grains versus refined. So what do you think is a whole grain?
You mean like rice and quinoa and those kind of things? Is that what you mean? Like brown rice, quinoa. There's a bunch of other ones that I forget what they're called, but all the different grains.
Yeah.
Well, wheat, whole wheat, obviously, right? What about barley? Is barley a grain?
Absolutely.
Rye?
Barley. Let's start with that one.
Okay.
So barley is one of the oldest cultivated grains and retains its popularity throughout Europe.
Okay.
What about one that we eat most mornings?
Oh, oats.
Oats. The oat, harvested since Neolithic times, is richer in protein than most relatives in the grain family. Did you say brown rice?
I did, yes.
Okay. It's been honored with the title soul food because it's nutrient dense.
Okay, really?
Mm-hmm. Traditionally rye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, rye is another one. I like rye bread.
What's the other word for the German bread?
Oh, pumpernickel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So rye has been coveted by German, Russian, and Scandinavian bread makers for its distinctive flavor.
Oh, it's so good. It's really good toasted. Brings out the flavor even more.
Yeah, it's pretty dense, eh?
It is, but it's got a nice sharp flavor to it.
Mm-hmm. So like you can buy the loaf of rye and you have to look at the ingredients because sometimes they add molasses and they call it rye, but it's mostly refined wheat.
Oh, they make it look like a rye bread because it's dark brown from the molasses?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cheating. I hate when they do that.
So it's good to look at the ingredient list. And what would be in the ingredient list if it's a real, true, authentic rye?
Well, rye. Is that a trick question?
Yeah.
Okay. What else? Well, what else then?
A lot of rye bread, if you look at the ingredient list, it says refined white flour as the first ingredient. And in the ingredient list, the first ingredient is the most in that food.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd want rye to be the first ingredient.
Yeah, I would think so. Okay, that's a good tip. I'm going to look at that the next time I buy rye bread.
Yeah, I'd love to have rye bread. It's so delicious.
Like real rye bread.
Yeah, pumpernickel, sometimes a marble rye, but it really look at that ingredient list.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and then there's some crackers that sometimes we get that are
what? Like that have rye in them?
Mm-hmm.
Like the rye crisps, isn't that what they're called?
That's one.
Yeah. Oh, Melba Toast, do they have rye in them?
That's a good question. Let's look at the ingredient list of those. I don't know if we have any.
I think they have a version of them because I remember some that are like a marble kind of.
Yeah. Rye Vita.
Oh, rye Vita. Yeah.
That's like, in the name.
Mm-hmm.
And Wasa.
Oh, yeah.
So those are excellent ideas for if you're a cracker person.
I'm a cracker person.
And if Ritz or another snack cracker made with refined wheat is your go-to, maybe look for what we were just talking about. Rye Vita, Wasa.
You know what would make those perfect? For me, for how I use crackers, because I can make little snacks with crackers and eat them in one bite because I don't like biting them because they make such a mess. So I just like to pop it in my mouth in one bite. But those big, huge Wasa, and they're too big. So if they made like bite-sized versions of them, they would be the perfect cracker.
There you go. You should contact the...
I should get in touch with them.
Yeah,
I really should. And say, hey, here's a suggestion.
Well, there's another option, and actually these are gluten-free. So they're made with lots of different whole grains, but no wheat. So they're made with, and I'm talking about Mary's.
Oh, Mary's. They're so good.
Yeah,
I remember reading the ingredient list on that, and there wasn't one bad thing in there. Everything I recognized. There wasn't any like funny chemicals or words that I didn't understand, which is rare for a product in a box.
Yeah, ingredients: brown rice, quinoa, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, flax seeds, sesame seeds, poppy seeds, onion, garlic, sea salt, and organic. All the grains. So organic brown rice, organic quinoa, pumpkin seeds. So yeah, that's a grain. So
yeah, and those are really tasty too.
Yeah, and those are gluten-free for those that can't have wheat or that are wheat intolerant. So there's lots of clients I have, practicing as a dietitian for over 25 years, actually 27, in a variety of different settings, like at the cancer clinic and with local doctors and different clients. I've seen a lot of different trends come and go, a lot of different diets, a lot of people on different diets, like the low carb, the low fat, actually, when I first started, high fat, paleo, keto, you name it. I've seen it.
You got to stay ahead of the curve.
Well, the thing is, a lot of the way I stay ahead is clients come to me after they've been on certain diets or restricted certain things in their diet for years, and they now have a health condition that might have stemmed from whatever they were restricting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you remove things from your diet, you're not getting those nutrients usually, right? So, I mean, sure, you're removing the wheat or the gluten, but all the other things that you're getting from those products that contain the gluten, you're not getting all those nutrients. So if you're not replacing them somehow, then your body's missing out, and then eventually it breaks down somewhere for some people, right? And that's some of the people that you're seeing, and they've had health issues related to cutting things out of their diet.
Yeah, restrictions. Lots of restrictions. And, there's so much noise or information out there in the internet land and socials that it's really hard to decipher, like, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's a little bit different. There's no one diet that fits everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
And, we live in a society where food is social, food is cultural. And I've had so many clients lately who cannot eat a multitude of things. And they say, I just wanted to have a piece of pizza with my family last night.
Mm-hmm,
I've heard that over and over again. And it's sad, like if we keep taking foods out of our diet and restricting, what does that do to our gut microbiome.
Well, it makes it like you want it to be fairly complex down there, right? And it's based on what you're eating. So if you stop eating things, then it sort of gets to the point where you can't reintroduce things without disrupting your gut microbiome.
And that's how I help people, is like reintroducing. It's like slow and low. Let's start trying new things. I'm not talking about people who have celiac and they cannot have wheat or gluten. You know, we did an episode with dietitian Selena DeVries, who specializes in the gluten-free diet because she's celiac herself, and she helps people with celiac disease. And what was that episode called?
It was called Celiac Disease and Lifelong Gluten-Free Diet, Nutrition Issues and Concerns. It's episode 148.
Oh, perfect. Okay. That's a really good one for people to listen back on. And she did mention the brow T. Do you remember what that stood for?
Isn't it the little sort of symbol that has to be on foods if they contain, or it's what you look for on the nutrition facts or something, but it stands for barley, rye, oats, wheat, and the T is some...
Triticale. Yeah,
okay.
You got it.
And those are all the things... Well, you explain what it means.
Yeah, and those are those foods that if you have celiac, you have to watch the ingredients on foods in a package, which is most foods. And if they have any of the brow, the barley, rye, oats, wheat, and triticale, those should be avoided by people who have celiac, because with oats, for instance, they're grown in fields that are cross-contaminated with wheat. So a lot of the oats that are in food products or oats that we buy to eat might have wheat.
May contain wheat, right?
Because of where they're grown. So you can get gluten-free oats. So I have many clients who have celiac, and that is one thing that we're trying to reintroduce, are gluten-free oats.
Yeah, they're grown in a bubble, so they're not cross-contaminated by your neighbor's field.
I guess
where
so.
They're growing wheat and they blow over the fence. So, yeah, no, they must be grown in a controlled environment, right?
Yeah, but knowing that oat has been harvested since Neolithic times, so you think it isn't a new grain at all.
Mm-mm.
And I think that is where the confusion comes in, because I think a lot of the messaging is that grains are new in our diet, but they're not new. The refined, commercially prepared grains that are in a lot of our food products and a lot of our snacks and our crackers and cookies and cereals, and
it's how we're eating grains that's new. Like chips and donuts and that kind of stuff, that's relatively new in the big scheme of things. They weren't around, 800, 900 thousands of years ago, whatever. So the messaging that we're hearing about the refined grains is, well, they just say grains, but it is refined grains, white stuff, and yeah, it's all the junky stuff.
Yeah, and
that's what's causing the problems.
Like, grains have been the foundation of life until the last few decades, and they were always eaten whole before they started to process them to take off the germ and the bran. So I have clients that have diabetes and heart disease, and in looking at what they're eating, the portions of grains in their diet are kind of off.
Okay.
Okay, so a spaghetti dinner, for instance, refined white wheat noodles.
Lots of them.
Yeah, and not as much protein or vegetables.
Right, exactly.
So we talk about portions and we talk about plate ratio. And with portions, we use our hand, right? Mm-hmm. And I teach people this in the in our grocery store tours that I do. Because I show, like, kids, for instance, if they are in a class and doing the tour with me and they're maybe in elementary school, they're little. We hold up our hands to see how big our hand is.
Right.
Because your hand, about the size of your fist, is like your stomach. And so your portion is going to be a lot different than, for instance,
a 6-year-old.
Yours.
Mine, yeah. I have bigger hands than most 6-year-olds.
Yeah, exactly. So that gives you a good rule of thumb for the grain part of your plate.
So the size of your hand, it should be the size of your portion.
Mm-hmm.
Because you use that for protein as well, right?
Yep.
For all your portions.
2 for your veg.
Oh, 2 hands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an easy way to reflect on the meal you're eating.
Yeah, that's really a good way to do it for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, if you go to a place that has a spaghetti dinner, would it be 1 serving?
Of the noodles, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that'd be like the entire plate's covered
6.
in noodles.
About 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that just shows like how the ratio is off, right? And eating that way for years could lead to inflammation, could lead to problems.
There's nothing wrong with having a big plate of spaghetti once in a while.
Right.
Like we encourage people to not put those rules on, and because, I mean, you'd never eat spaghetti ever again if that was kind of the rule, right? I mean, it's okay to do that once in a while, but I think what we're trying to say is if you're doing that every night of the week, if that's your regular routine with your portion sizes, then that's going to give you problems.
Right. And what a good rule of thumb also is with your grains over the day, like half of them should be whole grains. Or another way to say it is try to include 3 whole grains a day. Does that make sense?
And what should the other half be then?
Well, this is like living in our society where we are at functions and maybe there's donuts. So maybe you will have a donut. If you're healthy and well and you're not like completely restricting everything out of your diet, you could probably safely have a donut.
Right.
Okay. So that would be a refined grain.
I see.
So you want to, most days, try to aim for having at least half of the grains that you're eating to be whole grains. So they have the bran. They have the fiber from the bran. Mm-hmm. They have the germ, which is higher in vitamin E, right? And that's a good way to get our vitamin E because a lot of us don't get enough vitamin E.
Okay.
We use wheat germ in our oats in the morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
We add wheat germ because wheat germ actually carries the best supply of health and enhancing vitamin E in our diet.
Oh, is that right?
So a quarter cup equals about 4 milligrams of vitamin E, and that's equivalent to about 16 slices of whole wheat bread.
Wow. Like the amount of vitamin E you'd get from
a quarter cup.
Bread. Wow, that's amazing.
You know, we sprinkle it on our oats. We don't have a quarter cup, I wouldn't say.
No, gosh, no.
But we are getting some good amount of vitamin E, mm-hmm. and vitamin E is the most effective antioxidant that eliminates free radicals in the body. And that's a quote by Dr. Winower from Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. So vitamin E is the most effective antioxidant eliminating free radicals in the body. And we want to get our vitamin E from food.
Ideally. Yeah.
And so whole grains are a good way to get your vitamin E. We did the nutrigenomics where you analyze your genes to see how your body processes different vitamins and minerals, like 79 different vitamins and minerals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing.
We interviewed Hilit Milner
mm-hmm.
on nutrigenomics. I can't remember what episode it was, but her company is Sunrise by HM. And she talked all about the power of nutrigenomics. And that was an interesting discovery is vitamin E for most people, and depending on their genes, most people should get vitamin E from their food and not from a supplement.
Yes.
Because you can get too much if you take a supplement and like a single dose supplement of vitamin E, whereas whole grains are a good way to get vitamin E. And as I mentioned, like wheat germ is an excellent way. You get a good amount in food instead of a supplement.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think we want to get most of our nutrients through food, or vitamins, I mean, ideally, right?
Well, and that's the thing, like, because there are some really important vitamins and minerals in whole grains that it would be difficult to get if you completely cut grains off your plate.
Like what?
What vitamins and minerals?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the big one is fiber.
Well, yeah, that's true.
And that's from the bran, like the outer coat of the seed. So it actually helps balance the absorption of carbohydrates, and it helps reduce the glycemic index. So when you eat refined grains, your blood sugar will rise quickly. But if it's a whole grain, your blood sugar won't rise as quickly because of the bran in that grain.
Right.
And the fiber that comes from the bran, because it's not absorbed. So the other vitamins and minerals are magnesium. That's a big one because we know that a lot of people don't get enough magnesium in their diet. And partly it's because of all the refined grains they're eating.
Yeah.
Right. So if we have whole grains, you're going to get some more magnesium. Vitamin E, I mentioned. And with vitamin E, it's fat soluble. It's a fat soluble vitamin.
Right.
So when we eat a mixed meal, so if it has whole grain and then a little bit of, nut butter or some sort of fat, that helps our body absorb the vitamin E. Right. So if there's a little bit of oil, like olive oil, and you're having a whole grain, say maybe whole grain pasta, whole wheat pasta, then that is going to help your body absorb the vitamin E a bit better.
Right.
B6 is another one.
Yeah, I was going to say B vitamins, right?
B vitamins, yeah. And zinc.
Oh, yeah?
Zinc is in whole grains.
I remember that,
Yeah, and selenium.
Okay.
So that's another one that a lot of people aren't getting enough of. So, and selenium and vitamin E, I think we did an episode on that. They work in concert. They work together.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
So selenium's like a mineral, a micro mineral. And vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant. So it actually helps it to prevent the oxidation. Or, you think of a car and you think of rust. So if you have that vitamin E, it protects the selenium from being oxidized or causing free radicals. So that's why they work together.
Oh, okay. Fascinating.
Yeah, it's
how it all works.
It's amazing. So we've talked about the mind diet before, right?
We have multiple times.
Yeah. And
I think we have a freebie on our website too, the Mind Diet Guide.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. It's kind of like all the things you need to do to follow the mind diet.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a whole chapter on the grains. So there's a whole chapter on trying to get whole grains.
Not on our website.
No, sorry. With the mind diet. And we did an episode, I think it was episode 8.
And by diet, this isn't like a diet. This is more like a way of eating.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Diet's kind of like a negative connotation. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Diet's very restrictive, and there's like
a short-term kind of temporary thing. Yeah, I don't really like that word.
Yeah, and they just used it for explaining the research that they took Mediterranean diet plus the DASH, the dietary approaches to stop hypertension, and they combined them, and they actually did the research and showed that the mind diet of way of eating actually can reduce the risk of dementia by 50%.
Huge.
I know. And it can help delay the onset. Like if you're on track for developing dementia or Alzheimer's, the MIND diet, which stands for Mediterranean Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay. So basically the MIND diet, it's an acronym for Mediterranean, Intervention, Neurodegenerative Delay.
Yeah.
And it's, people think mind, it must be mindful eating, which is an important aspect of nutrition too. But this MIND diet actually refers to the components of the food, like what to eat, the components of your eating pattern.
Right.
And whole grains, there's a whole episode on whole grains because we need to, with the MIND diet, there's 3 servings of whole grains in there.
Per day?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we talked a little bit about barley, buckwheat.
Oh, buckwheat.
So first grown in Central Asia, buckwheat is still the major whole grain in Japan served as soba noodles.
Oh, really?
High in amino acid lysine, it is the perfect complement to other grains with scanty amounts of this amino acid. Interesting, eh?
Buckwheat pancakes, too. I seem to recall eating those somewhere.
Yeah. Interesting. It's previously known as a poor man's food. It's grown well on rocky hillsides and is hardy enough to thrive without pesticides. Today, it enjoys health food chic and has gotten attention for containing the antioxidant rutin, which may improve circulation. Like amaranth, that's another whole grain that we'll talk about. Buckwheat is not a true grain, and it's not even wheat, despite its name. In fact, unlike all true wheat varieties, buckwheat is gluten-free. Japanese soba noodles are traditionally made with buckwheat, and it's also used in crepes.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Buckwheat.
Buckwheat, that's right. And corn is actually another whole grain. And a lot of people think of it as a vegetable.
Corn.
Yeah. So it is a gluten-free grain that provides more vitamin A and related carotenoids than most other grains. Because it is kind of like a vegetable, but on our plate, it actually is more like the starch or the carbohydrate.
It's a grain.
It's a grain.
I never thought of it that way.
Well,
Interesting.
I mean, it is. You know how avocado, is it a fruit or vegetable?
Right.
Tomato, fruit or vegetable? Corn, vegetable or grain.
Well, I guess if you think of it as like, it's often used in cereals, right? It's used for making tortillas,
popcorn,
and
movie theater snacks.
Right. True. Huh.
So yeah, it's a whole grain, and DNA testing shows corn originally came from Mexico, where it was developed into the agricultural staple about 9,000 years ago.
Wow.
It gets a bad rap, as most of the corn in North America, the US, and Canada is used to feed animals, and that's called dent or field corn. But there are other unique varieties that have a role in human diets. So sweet corn is a kind that's in season in the summer and can be eaten off the cob. We've talked about that one.
Oh, I love it.
With our cornbread episode, I think.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and it should be eaten soon after harvesting because the sugars start to convert to starches as soon as it's picked. So if you need to store it, leave it in the husk.
Okay.
So when eaten with beans, corn helps provide complete proteins. So in traditional Central and South American culinary cultures, corn is commonly soaked in lime water to form tortillas.
Oh, really? Interesting.
And it actually,
Lime.
Yeah, it's amazing because the natives of South America have cultivated corn for hundreds of years and unknowingly actually improved its nutrient value by treating the corn with lime to form tortillas. And the lime water adds calcium and increases the B vitamin absorptions. So corn products that commonly go through this process are tortillas, masa flour, and southern U.S.'s hominy.
Nice.
So those are whole grains. There's also, I think you talked about, did you say bulgur?
I did not.
Okay. Farro, freekeh, millet. We talked about oats, quinoa, brown rice, rye, sorghum, teff, triticale.
All the different
wild rice, wild
grains.
wheat. Yeah. And sprouted grains is another way that you could get a whole grain bread that you feel may be better digested for you. You've heard of squirrely bread?
I sure have.
The sprouted grain bread?
It's kind of a funny name because it sounds like something that is made for kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I always think that. Well, I think because there's like squirrel peanut butter, I think, which is kind of like marketed towards kids, I think. And squirrely bread, I just think in my head, that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
I always think, oh, it's for kids.
Okay.
But it's the opposite. Well, not the opposite, but it's like super healthy bread, right?
Well, it's interesting. The backstory, we'll do a whole episode on this one, eh?
Okay.
But grains used to sprout accidentally, but most grains today no longer do so by happenstance. There's actually nutritional benefits to sprouting a grain. So the germ of the whole grain is the plant embryo. So the germ is what's removed if you have a refined grain, the germ and the bran.
Right.
So the germ of the whole grain is the plant embryo. and it feeds on the starchy endosperm. That's the refined part of the grain, the endosperm,
Right.
and bran of a whole grain until it's ready to germinate into a new plant. When temperature and moisture conditions are just right, the whole grain will sprout. When sprouting starts, enzymes make the endosperm starch easier for the germ to digest. Some people may also find this activated type of grain easier to digest as well. When a grain is properly and safely sprouted, it's both seed and new plant, which makes it more digestible, is higher in vitamins and minerals such as B vitamins, vitamin C, folate, fiber, and amino acid, often lacking in grains, the lysine.
Well then.
So that's the benefit of the sprouted grains. So let's just take it home and talk about what can people do. So
Yeah, that's kind of the bottom line, right?
should I avoid all grains? I heard they cause inflammation. That was the question. And I think it's important to include whole grains. 3 servings a day is a good goal to aim for. If you are eating other grains like refined grains, products like crackers and white bread and pasta and rice and other grains, aim to have half your grains that you eat to be whole grains. And if you have celiac, then obviously you'll have to avoid the brow tea, so the barley, rye, oats, wheat, and triticale, and look on the labels for those elements. But if you can, try to include 3 whole grains a day and aim for, if you're looking at the label, the fiber is the nutrient that you're looking for on the label, and we want 2 grams of fiber per serving. And I've worked in so many different places in my life and in my professional life and worked on fiber, like educating people about fiber, because we did the groups. I did groups in the at the cancer clinic for people having pelvic radiation, and they start to have issues with digestion and bowel movements, and fiber can impact that. So I've learned a lot about fiber. I've been keeping my finger on the pulse of, what's happening in fiber world and whole grains, because that's a big source of fiber. I've seen many clients who have cut out grains completely, cut out carbs, any carbs, and they start having issues with digestion, leaky gut. They start to have lots of constipation, not getting the fiber. So yeah, if you try to get 2 grams of fiber per serving in whatever whole grain you're eating, that's great. And we know that, it's a good rule of thumb, eat foods that grow from the ground or roamed the earth. So we know that whole foods are definitely, they have more of their nutrition because they haven't been stripped of their vitamins and minerals. And so, yeah, the whole grain retains the bran, the germ, and the endosperm, and it offers the fat-soluble vitamins, the B vitamins, magnesium, the iron, the zinc, selenium, and it helps with digestion. So I do recommend that people continue to include at least 3 servings of whole grains in their day most days.
And remember to read the ingredient list too, because often products can sound like they're whole grain, but they aren't. Like a multi-grain bread, you said, sometimes is just white bread with bits added to it.
Right, like the 12 grain. Yeah, it's white, refined white flour, and they've just put 12 grains in it, like 12 different grains. So
it's still white flour. It's not whole wheat flour.
Exactly.
It's a little misleading. So it's good to read the nutrition facts label and the ingredients just to sort of see. And with that rye bread too, that was really interesting.
And branch out. I mean, and that's how a lot of the clients I see that are having problems are only eating like 10 to 15 to 20 different foods in their week. So and a lot of people get in the food rut where they're only eating the same meals, and it's easy for them because they don't have to think too much or experiment. And I get it, especially if you've had issues, if you've had inflammation, if you've had any kind of IBS where you've had digestive issues and you've removed a lot of different foods out of your diet. It's really hard to start to reintroduce. But it's important for the long term. And we talk about the long term. The goal is to be able to eat a wider variety, lots of diversity with plant foods, whole grains, whole animal foods, whole foods, plants that have grown from the earth and foods that are minimally processed. So that's another way we say it. But it's important for quality of life and for social interaction, to go out with friends, for potlucks, for just going out to restaurants. So many people I talk to, they can't even go out to a restaurant because there's just no options on the menu for them.
Yeah. So often we look at food as just serving our health. And obviously that's a huge component of it. But like Sandra was just saying, the food is also part of our culture. It's part of our life. It's part of our lifestyle, our social life, our family life, like there's that element of it as well. And if we start limiting what we're able to eat, then you're limiting how you're able to participate in these other facets of your life.
And if you have a family with young kids, how restrictive are you with their choices? Because they watch you. Kids watch their parents and they model after their parents, not what they say, but what they do. And if you're eating a certain meal that's separate from the rest of the family and you can't eat pizza with the rest of the family, what message does that send to the kids? Oh, food is harmful. Oh, my mom's always sick because she's on a diet and she can't eat this, she can't eat that. This is not a healthy relationship with food. And I see it time and again. Every day I see this with clients. So it is something to consider when we're going down that path of healthy eating and what to include and how to eat and how to live our life.
There you go.
That was a bit of a rant.
Oh, that's fine. Rants are welcome.
Well, I gotta say it because so many of my clients, I ask about their background and their mom was on a diet. They went to Weight Watchers with their mom when they were 11.
Oh,
and
man.
They've been on a diet for decades and they're not healthy. They're not happy. Like they're trying to change their body. They're trying to change the way they think about themselves. And they're trying to restrict and limit and change their nutrition. And in that process, it's really affecting their quality of life and their health. And they think they're doing the right thing, but it's actually harming them.
Yeah. We really need to rethink how we approach food and what it means in our life and the effects that it has on us, both positive and negative.
Yeah. And I feel like there's just so much information out there and it's very confusing and it's conflicting. And before the age of social media, nutrition wasn't even that important in a lot of people's minds and in the medical establishment. I mean, I've always been, fighting for the impact of food and health and the importance of nutrition. And it's not always been a priority in the medical establishment because part of it, I think, is with medical training for doctors. Historically, they've not had a lot of education around nutrition. And I think the tides are turning, but it's almost going to the other extreme where now there's, you got to cut out this, you got to cut out this, don't ever eat this. And I hear that all the time. And it's so frustrating because it really can impede your enjoyment of life.
Exactly. Well, I think we've painted a pretty good picture.
Okay.
It's enough for people to digest for a little while. If you have questions, let us know. That's why we're here. We want to help people understand. Like Sandra said, it is confusing. There's a lot of different messaging out there these days, and we are here to try to help clear up the confusion and give you science-based facts, evidence-based facts. Sandra's experience, 27 years of dietitian experience working with clients, not just reading books and stuff. She's got hands-on experience. So feel free to shoot us your questions. If there's things you want to know, That's why we're here. We want to help answer your questions. So you can reach out to us through our website. It's mywifethedietitian.com. Send us your questions at mywifetherd@gmail.com. There's also a whole bunch of information on our website. We've got an amazing blog. You can check out different media articles that Sandra's been a part of, lots of different links to research and that sort of thing. So there's lots of valuable information there.
And many of our guests who we've had on the podcast, there's articles that they contributed to the blog. So that's another resource to look up.
Absolutely. You can also join our newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter. It's free to join. And we share some more tips in there, different recipes, nutrition tips, different foods to try, all sorts of different things. So that's another reason to check out the website. There's links to join the newsletter through that as well. You can also find us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, posting different things there once in a while. Feel free to leave a comment. I love hearing your feedback as well. If you like the show, give us a review, or at least rate it. That's helpful for other people finding it. Lets us know that we're on the right track. And it's just nice to hear what everyone thinks. You can also share with a friend too. If you're liking the show, maybe let your friends know that there's some valuable information that you've found and you think they might benefit from it as well. So that is it for this episode. We will be back on Wednesday with another episode. It's our Nutrition Nuggets on Wednesday. So until then, have a fantastic week, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on My Wife the Dietitian. If you like what you heard, don't be shy. Leave us a comment or review, and be sure to share our podcast with your friends. If you'd like to hear more, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media pages for updates, episode trailers, and other odds and ends. For more info and links on what we discussed on today's episode, check the show notes. We'll be back next week with another informative and fun-filled episode.